Willow class. So today we are going to have a look at fractions and we are going to be comparing fractions today. So we're actually going to start off with looking at fractions as diagrams. So you can see that I've just numbered each of the questions just to help you guys when I refer to them. Also today, to make it a little bit more challenging, we are going to be looking at fractions that are greater than 1. So that means fractions that are larger than just a whole number, okay? But we will go into that in a second. So you can see that number 1 here, I am going to shade in 1/5, okay? And then I'm going to shade in 1/3. So if I was to shade in 1/5, that means that 1 out of 5 of these would be shaded. Now, really luckily for you guys, I've actually split this up ready into fifths. And I'm just going to now shade as neatly as I can on here, 1/5, okay? So you can see that that is just 1 out of the 5 that have been shaded. And now here, I'm going to just choose a different colour to make it clearer. I'm going to shade 1 out of 3. Now, just so that it's easier for me to see, I've started there at the centre line and then shaded one of those. So I'm going to start at this centre line at the top and I'm just going to shade one of these. I could do this one because that would still be 1 out of 3 sections. However, it might be a little bit harder to compare when I'm looking at them both. So that's why I'm going to go with this one. I don't know why, but I always choose to do the one that's in this position pretty much. Okay, I'll show you on the number 2 in a second. If you change position, that's fine, but try and do it on both in roughly the same position. So here I have shaded 1 out of 3 sections. So now, if we simply just look at the diagram of both of these, we need to just suss out which one is actually bigger. And I can see straight away that this purple one is larger than this one, okay? Now, because this one is larger, that means that this one is smaller. So this one is less than 1/3. So 1/5 is less than 1/3. Therefore, let's have a think. What's the symbol that is going to go in here? So we could have this symbol, we could have this symbol, or finally we could have this one. So there's 3 symbols there that we use when we compare fractions. This one, the number in front of it is going to be smaller than the number after it because this symbol means less than. So, for example, 4 is less than 5. This symbol stands for greater than. So, for example, the number in front of it is bigger. So, 6 is greater than 2. And then finally here, we have got equals, and that means that whatever is here is the same as whatever is here. So 2 equals 2, or 2 equals 1 plus 1, which obviously, as we know, does equal 2. So which symbol do you think would go here? Well, we've said 1/5 is less than 1/3, and this is our symbol for less than. So it's going to look like that, okay? Now, if we move on to this one, question number 2, my numerator has changed here. So these are called unit fractions, and that's just because we've got the numerator is a number 1. However, to make it a little bit trickier, we've then got it where the numerator here is a 2. And I've got 2 out of 5. So I'm going to shade in 2 out of 5. And this time I'm going to shade in the one on the left, just to be different. And then I'm going to shade in, once I've done that, so that's 1 out of 5. And I'm going to do this one because I need 2/5, not just 1. Once I shade that in, try and do it so it stays in the lines. I've got 1, 2, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 2/5. And then here on this fraction, how many do I need to shade in? Well done, I need to shade in 1/2. So again, I'm going to stick to this side of the fraction just because I started on this side here. So like I said, it's a lot easier to compare. So I'm just going to colour this one in. And this is actually what red and orange group are going to be doing today. So they've got a really lovely activity of colouring in and seeing which one looks less than or greater than the other. or do they look the same? Do they look equal? So now let's have a look. Which of these look the same? Sorry, which of these look larger and which looks smaller? Because they're not the same. We can see just from the picture. If it was the same, then this would come straight down here. So actually, this one is the largest fraction and this one is the smallest. So 2/5 is smaller than 1/2, or the terminology we like, the vocab is 2/5 is less than a half. Don't forget, but this is like the crocodile's mouth. The crocodile's mouth opens to the largest thing because it's greedy. So it likes to eat the largest number or the largest fraction. Okay, so now what I've got is I've got some fractions on the board, and these fractions actually don't have pictures. And I could carry on using pictures. However, when we need to be quick with our maths and our mental arithmetic work, we need to actually try our very best to do it without diagrams because that's the speediest method. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to do number 3 without using diagrams. So my first fraction is 6/9, and then I've got 2/4. So we know that I need to find a denominator that 9 and 4 both go into. So I'm going to draw my line here, my fraction line, and what number does 9 and 4 go into? If you don't know, you can always multiply them together to get an answer. So if I was to multiply these together, I would get the answer 36. So both of my denominators are now going to be changed to 36. And if you remember, we need to look at what we've done to the 9 to get 36. So how many 9s are in 36? You can count in your 9 times tables. 9, 18, 24, sorry, 9, 18, 27, 36. So that is 4 lots of 9. So that now I need to do that to my numerator. 6 times by 4 is, well done if you got that correct, it's 24. And then here at the bottom, on the right, sorry, I need to look at what I've done to the 4 to get 36. And I know that I times my denominators, so I know that I times 4 by 9. So I now need to do 2 times by 9. Remember the rule is whatever I do to the numerator, I do to the denominator and vice versa. So 2 lots of 9 is, well done, 18. So now I've got 24/36 and I've got 18/36. And if you remember, I said it was really important to make sure that the denominator was the same before you can compare or add or subtract fractions. So which is larger, 24/36 or 18/36? Yeah, 24 is. So therefore, my arrow should be like that. 6/9 is larger than 2/4. Okay, what I want you guys to do is now have a go at number 4 for me, and then we'll go through 5 and 6 together. Okay, off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video and you've managed to have a quick look at this one. So all I've done is just, instead of multiplying my fractions, my denominators, I can actually see that 3 goes into 6. Therefore, I'm going to keep my denominator as 6. If you have times them together, you will still get the same answer when you come to do your comparison, so don't worry, okay? So then, what have I done to 6 to get 6? All I've done is times it by 1 or kept it the same. So what do I do to my numerator? I times it by 1. 5 times 1 is 5, okay? Then when I have a look at this one, what have I done to my denominator to get a 6? I've times it by 2, because 3 times 2 is 6. So therefore I need to do that to my numerator, which is 1. So 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, now 2/6 or 5/6, which is the largest fraction? 2/6 or 5/6? Yeah, the answer is 5/6. So when we go back to our symbol, is it this one, or this one? And the answer is actually here, because if you remember, the arrow points to the smallest fraction. 2/6 is less than 5/6. So in the box, it's important that you put your symbol. Okay. Now let's move on to this one, question number 5, which I actually started while she paused the video. And again, you can see that my denominator is 8 and this denominator is 4. If you multiply them together, you will get the denominator 32 and you'll still get the same answer when it comes to your greater than, less than or equivalent to. However, here we don't have to do that because I know that 4 goes into 8. So what have I done to the 8 to get 8? Well, again, like I did here, all I've done is times it by 1. So 2 times by 1 is 2. So my numerator is 2. So this stays the same as 2/8. And then for this one, what have I done to my 4 to get 8? I've times it by 2. So therefore, 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. So now what's the symbol going to be that's in the middle? 2/8. Is it less than or greater than or equivalent to 2/8? And you should hopefully realise that they are actually the same. They are equivalent. So very well done if you got that correct. Okay, very quickly, this one you will have got the denominator as 80ths, and therefore this will have been 32/80ths, and this will have been 30/80ths. So therefore your arrow would look like that. So again, well done if you got that correct. Okay, finally, before I ask you to go on to your activities for today, the lesson objective did actually say we were looking at numbers, well, fractions that are greater than 1. So you can see that I've got fractions here that are mixed numbers, okay? So I've got 1 and 5/6, and then I've got 1 and 2/3. Because our whole number is the same here, then we just look at the fraction. So let's just look at 5/6 and 2/3 and get our common denominator. So my common denominator is going to be 6 because 3 goes into 6. So this has remained the same. So this remains the same. So here, all I've got now is 1 whole and 5/6. And here, I've multiplied the denominator by 2. So I multiply the numerator by 2, which gives me 4. My 1 whole hasn't changed. So now, which is larger, 1 whole and 5/6 or 1 whole and 4/6? And the answer is 1 whole and 5/6. Therefore, that is the greater than symbol. Okay. Just when you look at this one, you can see I've got 2 wholes and I've got 1 whole. So therefore, straight away, this one has to be the largest without me having to do any calculating. Okay. Just before you go, you might have a question which looks something like this. You'll have a mixed number fraction here, which is 2 wholes and 1/3. And then here, let me just see if I can change that to 4. You might have 14/5. And if you have 14/5, then you know that you need to look at how many fifths go into 14. 5, 10. So that would be converted into 2 wholes and then how many left over. From 2 wholes you've got 10 and then you've got 4 left over to get to 14. So you would have 2 wholes and 4/5. Don't worry too much if that has confused you, converting it from an improper to a mixed number, but we will look at that later, okay? So all of your activities are posted below. Your date and lesson objective is there on the video for you, and I look forward to seeing how you get on with this activity today. Off you go, guys. Well done.